Hooves, a lot of them, crashing through timber straight toward me. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I forced myself to breathe, slow, steady. Then she stepped out, a cow elk, broadside, 300 yards. This was deep in an Arizona wilderness, miles from the truck, with my 5-year-old daughter on the mountain. Last autumn, I was lucky enough to draw a tag to harvest a cow elk in northern Arizona. Elk mean a lot to my family. I grew up eating wild meat, and it shaped who I am. And providing that kind of food for my own family is deeply important to me. We packed up our camper van, brought along our 5-year-old daughter, and headed out with high hopes. Opening day didn't go as planned. Nothing. That night we sat down and talked strategy. There were a few options, but only one really felt right to me. It also happened to be the hardest. Miles off trail, 1,000 feet of elevation, deep into a rugged wilderness area with our 5-year-old. My husband had doubts. Honestly, so did I. There were a lot of unknowns and a lot that could go wrong, but I couldn't shake the feeling this was the only option with potential. Deep down, I knew this was the move. Hunting success, like a lot of things in life, depends on countless variables lining up just right. And if you hesitate at the wrong moment, the opportunity is gone. So I committed. I woke at 4 a.m., quick breakfast, truck rolling, headlamp on. I started up the mountain alone. Cold, quiet, perfect. As I climbed, I started seeing it. Fresh elk sign everywhere. Tracks pressed deep into the mud. Game trails worn into the hillside. And then I smelled them. If you've spent enough time hunting elk, you know that smell. They were close. I slowed down, careful, quiet. Then, explosion. A big bull elk jumped from his bed and vanished in seconds. Gone. My heart slammed in my chest. I didn't even lift my rifle. It didn't matter. I didn't have a bull elk tag anyway. But it told me everything I needed to know. I was in the right place. So I kept climbing. Higher. Steeper. At one point, I slipped, almost smashing my rifle on a log. One mistake out here and it's over. But I kept going because I had already decided this was the move. Eventually, I reached the basin, burned scar from years ago, open clearing, golden aspen groves glowing around the edges, quiet. Then chaos. 30 deer exploded out of nowhere, running in all directions. Not ideal. If the elk saw that, everything could fall apart. But there was nothing I could do. So I set up anyway, rifle on the log, back against a tree, stillness. Then, a bugle. Another one answered. That's when you know you're in it. I texted my husband. The plan was for him and our daughter to hike up the trail from the other side of the mountain and help if I got an elk. A little while later, he told me they were close. I spotted them through my binoculars. We all settled in and waited. Time passed. The elk stayed bedded. I laid back for a moment just to rest my eyes. Then, crack! I jolted awake. Gunshot? No, a dead tree falling, but it snapped me back, fully alert, and the light was starting to fade. Opportunity was narrowing. We were running out of time. That's when my husband made the call. He and my daughter would push the elk toward me. Not easy terrain. Deadfall everywhere. Slow going. He carried her most of the way, but they kept moving because this was it. Then I heard it. Hooves. A lot of them. Running downhill through the trees, directly toward me. Breathe. Slow. Steady. Don't rush. She stepped out first. The lead cow. The lookout. The queen elk. Watching. Broadside. 300 yards. I lined up. But before I could shoot, she turned. started walking straight toward me. I waited. More elk poured into the meadow. Cows, yearlings, movement everywhere. The light was fading. This was my moment. Then, she turned broadside again. I squeezed the trigger. Boom! She disappeared out of sight over the ridge. Gone. And then, dozens more elk came charging out of the trees, running right toward me. They had no idea I was there. I could have taken more shots. I didn't. I trusted the first one. I had to. I moved to where she'd been standing. Nothing. No blood. My stomach sank. Maybe I missed. We searched. Split up. Nothing. That feeling got heavier. Then, my husband shouted, "Here she is!" Relief hit all at once. She'd run about 50 feet, collapsed just below a rocky ledge. One clean shot, straight through the heart. Darkness was setting in. We got to work. My daughter sat nearby eating dinner while we processed the elk. Real life doesn't pause out there. Then came the hike. 3.5 miles off trail, in the dark, heavy pack, elk backstraps, rifle. My daughter's hand in mine the whole way. I fell more than once. It was exhausting, but we kept going. And my daughter? She had just hiked 7 miles, half off trail, part of it in the dark, at 5 years old. I was amazed and so proud. Because in the end, this hunt wasn't just about the elk. It was about the decision. The moment where you either act or you don't. Inaction breeds fear. Action creates results. I didn't know if everything would come together, but I moved anyway. I trusted my instincts, stayed ready, and when the moment came, I acted. That day, we didn't just harvest an elk. We earned it, and we did it together.